Here now, of the moment a single golden apple, cast onto a banquet table, shattered the peace of the immortal gods. Forget kings and armies for a minute. This is about Eris, the outcast, the goddess of discord, crashing the most sacred wedding of the age. Watch as the world's most powerful women, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite fall into a vanity trap set for a mortal judge. See, the choice that damned a prince named Paris, stole a queen named Helen, and launched 1,000 ships toward a city built of stone and destiny. Before the great walls fell, before the heroes clashed, before the blood was spilled, there was only the gleam of that apple and the terrible silence before the very first insult.
Hey everyone, get ready for the biggest ancient Greek blockbuster, the Trojan War. If you love drama, legendary heroes, and divine chaos, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of these epic tales. The spark, a wedding, a snub, and a disastrous choice. Our story starts with a big, glamorous wedding party for the sea goddess Thetis and the mortal Peleus. Everyone who was anyone was there, except for one crucial person, Eris, the goddess of discord. She's basically pure trouble. Mad about being ignored, Eris showed up anyway and tossed a golden apple inscribed with, "For the fairest," onto the table. This caused an instant, massive argument between three supreme goddesses: Hera, Zeus's queen, offering political power; Athena, goddess of wisdom and strategy, offering military glory; and Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, offering the world's most beautiful woman. Zeus, smart enough to avoid this mess, handed the job of judging the contest to a handsome, young, and charming mortal prince of Troy named Paris. Paris was swayed by the love bribe and chose Aphrodite. His prize? Helen, who was already married to Menelaus, the powerful king of Sparta in Greece. This judgment sealed the fate of thousands. The gathering storm, Paris, accompanied by a buddy, sailed to Sparta. While a guest in Menelaus' home, he violated the most sacred rule of Greek life, xenia, guest friendship, by either seducing or kidnapping Helen and taking her, along with Menelaus' treasures, back to Troy. Menelaus was absolutely livid. He called upon his brother, the super-powerful king of Mycenae, and overall Greek high commander, Agamemnon. They activated an old oath that obligated all the major Greek kings to fight for Helen's return. This brought in the absolute legends, Achilles, the nearly immortal demigod and the greatest warrior in the world. He was initially hiding, knowing the prophecy that if he fought, he would die gloriously. Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, known as the smartest and most cunning Greek, who initially faked madness to avoid the war. Ajax the Great, a giant of a man, second only to Achilles in battle prowess. They gathered a massive fleet, sometimes estimated at 1,000 ships, and sailed for Troy, which was protected by impenetrable walls. The stalemate and the rage of Achilles. The war was less epic charge and more brutal slog for 9 long years. Troy, led by the noble and dedicated Prince Hector, Paris's older brother and the true champion of the city, held firm against the massive Achaeans, Greeks. The famous drama, detailed in the Iliad, happens in the 10th year. The conflict shifts when Agamemnon offended Achilles by seizing a captive woman Achilles considered his prize. Achilles, stubborn and prideful, threw a world-class tantrum, withdrew his entire troop, the Myrmidons, and refused to fight. With Achilles gone, the tide turned immediately. Hector led the Trojans to victory after victory, pushing the Greeks back to their ships. Desperate, Achilles' closest companion, Patroclus, begged Achilles to let him wear his famous armor just to scare the Trojans. Achilles agreed, but tragically, Patroclus was killed in battle by Hector. Vengeance and the fall of the champions. Patroclus' death was the ultimate emotional turning point. Grief-stricken and filled with a consuming rage, Achilles went back into the fight wearing new, god-made armor. He sought out Hector, and after an epic, intense duel outside the city gates, Achilles killed him. In a horrific display of disrespect and grief, Achilles refused to return the body, dragging it behind his chariot for days. It took a brave night visit from old King Priam, Hector's father, to Achilles' tent to beg for the return of his son's body. The death of Hector was essentially the death knell for Troy, but the fighting continued. Soon after, Paris, the man who started it all, shot an arrow guided by the god Apollo that struck Achilles in his only mortal spot, his heel, killing the greatest of the Greeks. The final deception. With both champions dead, the war dragged into its final stages. The Greeks were tired, but Odysseus, the master of strategy, devised one last, desperate, brilliant plan, the Trojan horse. The Greeks built a colossal, hollow wooden horse and hid their best fighters inside, including Menelaus and Odysseus. The main army then burned their camp and sailed just out of sight, pretending to have given up. A Greek spy, Sinon, was left behind to convince the Trojans that the horse was a sacred offering to the goddess Athena, and that if they brought it inside their walls, it would make Troy invincible. Despite the desperate warnings of the priest Laocoon, who was then tragically silenced by sea serpents sent by the gods, and the disregarded pleas of Cassandra, King Priam's prophetess daughter, the Trojans believed the lie. They happily dragged the horse into the city, thinking they had won after a decade of hell. That night, while Troy was celebrating its victory, the Greek soldiers sneaked out of the horse, opened the gates, and let the entire Greek army who had secretly sailed back into the city. Troy was brutally sacked and burned to the ground. King Priam was killed, the heroes were gone, and the great city vanished forever. The Trojans lost, and the Greeks, though victorious, began their long, arduous journeys home, which for many, like Odysseus, would involve years more of suffering. And that, folks, is the whole tragedy. If you learned something new or enjoyed the ride, don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button for more epic history and myths.